Well, hello and welcome to our front yard garden in the South Carolina upstate. It is May 5th, 2024, and this is episode 13, I believe now. Hard to believe how quickly things have gone. It's a Sunday morning and pretty overcast. I think it's going to clear up eventually, but right now we had a little rain overnight. It's still a bit cloudy, but very pleasant. It's about mid-60s, and we're headed for a much warmer day. So let's get started and take a look at what we've got. A few things have changed since last week. As I've said before, spring is a time of rapid transition from one thing to another here, at least in this area. And we have a number of things that have peaked in the last couple of weeks. The rain we've had the last couple of days has really kind of finished some things off, not necessarily permanently, but at least the first round. A good example of that are these clematis, these Giacomini clematis that we have growing on the mailbox. Still looking fantastic, but you can see a lot of leaves or petals that have fallen off just in the last 2 or 3 days, and more will continue to. The good news about these clematis is that they will bloom in cycles, so you'll get a big batch of them like this, and then they'll go quiet for a little while, and then you'll get more coming back. So off and on through the year you'll continue to get more flowers, and not necessarily in these numbers. This is really the most prolific time for these. Same thing with knockout roses and a few other things, but unlike irises that only bloom in the spring, all those others that we're talking about will continue to come back. Now meanwhile, we still have our pansies. They're going to continue to bloom probably for another month or so. I would say they're not as full as they were. They don't like the hotter weather, and we really haven't gotten into the quote-unquote hot weather yet. Highest temperature we've had at any point so far here is 85 this spring, and most of the days have not even been up to 80. So we'll continue to get these through May. Once June comes, though, they'll start to wither and eventually die off, but still enjoying them. They've been giving us color really since we got them put in last November. So other than that, here in this bed, we had one iris that is done. We have a few little phlox over here that will bloom a little bit later. Those came up from last year. Unfortunately, they were kind of buried behind the gigantic zinnias that we had out here. We have not put those in, at least not yet. Not sure if we will or not. They were impressive last year, but they're a lot of work, and we've been kind of gearing our yard a little bit more towards perennials and less towards annuals. Now, one exception are these vinca here, these pink ones. We just put those in a couple weeks ago. It'll take them a little while to take off. We had vinca over in this area that came up from seed last year. It does not look like they're going to come back this year. Hard to say why, but that's the nature of a garden. You get good years and bad years, and a lot of it's not predictable. Some is predictable, but a lot is not. Over here, more pansies. The purple one's doing very well, giving us lots of color. Still a few creeping phlox. Certainly these peaked about a month ago, so they're not giving us a lot of color. There's just a few stragglers that are coming out, enough to be pretty, but not anything all that impressive. The one thing in this bed that is impressive is this, I keep calling it a dwarf rose. It's just a petite knockout rose. Gives us a lot of blooms throughout the year. This is the best of the 3 ones that we have. It's in full sun. 2 in the back that are in partial sun, partial shade. They're typically not done as well, but this one is really covered right now, and it'll continue to give us blooms throughout the year, just like a regular knockout. Then over here we have our dianthus. This peaked a couple of weeks ago. I won't say it's dying off. This does reasonably well if you can get in and deadhead it, but it's a lot of work. You can kind of see all the not buds, but seed pods, and you'd have to go through and get all of those. Sometimes they'll fall off, but most of the time you have to cut them off, and it's just kind of labor intensive. But these will continue to give us some flowers throughout the year. Behind those are the big, what I always call pom-pom marigolds. It's just a variety of African marigold, very, very pretty. These usually give us the biggest blooms in the spring. We have not been as good at fertilizing these as we probably could be. They don't get a lot bigger than this. This is what I'm going to say, the most flowers that we're going to see. There will be fewer as the year goes on, but still a fun plant to have in. So they certainly give you some very bright color, and they'll continue to do well throughout the summer. Still got pansies, and then the Johnny Jump Ups, the little tiny purple pansies in here. Got some sedum behind there, those pale green ground cover plants. They have little delicate yellow flowers on them. You can just barely see those, and they're not overly impressive, but they're cool. It's a nice little variety to have. We have our Russian sage back here. It's fully leafed out, but the flowers will yet to come, or yet to come. Those will probably be in another month or two. Little pale purple flowers. Got our probably our best climbing rose here. We've continued to have some trouble with the scaffolding falling over as soon as we get a stiff breeze. We're going to try to tie the top of it up. There's not a lot to hook it in with, but we're gonna work on that, because the plant itself is very prolific. Last year, this was one of our most successful climbing roses. It gives you these beautiful red blooms, and continues to produce those off and on, at least throughout the year. So we're gonna do our best to save the plant. It's kind of struggled with black spot, and again, I'm not a rose expert, but I've noticed it's lost a lot of leaves so far, and I don't know how much of it is from repeated falling over. Certainly not helping anything. Back here, still have some irises in bloom. A lot of this area peaked about 2 or 3 weeks ago, so we're going to continue to get color. The irises will finish up, but the clematis that we have here, there's only really just that pair of blooms down here. The rest have all gone to seed, but we'll continue to get scattered blooms throughout the year. It's a great thing about clematis. It peaks in the spring, but it continues to give you color off and on even after that. A couple more climbing roses. This one will give us some nice blood red blooms before long. And the one next to it, you can barely see. There's one bud back there against the brick. That's a yellow climber. These are not overly impressive. They do more in terms of putting out the vines and leaves and so on. Not as much with the flowers, but it's better than just plain brick. I'm always, given the choice, I'd rather have some greenery. Over here, as we get into the shadier part of the yard, we have a pair of, actually I should say a trio of hydrangeas. These are getting ready to bloom. It'll be another few weeks, but you can see the buds getting ready. These will be a combination of pink and blue. They've done very well here. And then we have others kind of doing the same thing over here, getting ready. These are actually a little bit closer to blooming. Well, at least some of them are. Some of them are still getting started. They're just very small. But then, strangely enough, out of the blue, so to speak, we got one that came out fully this past week. It's way ahead of all of its others. And so we didn't cut these back. I'm not sure if that really makes much of a difference or not. Honestly, again, I'm not an expert on any of these things. I'm just more of an observer. But you still see seed pods from last year, and I don't know that really hurt them, because as I look over this plant, it's still covered with buds, so I think it's going to be okay. Got another one that's actually just starting to open up here, way ahead of its brethren, but we'll continue to get flowers on those from now through probably the end of June, and then they'll start to finish up. Now over here, I always show these off. I've got a little Meyer lemon tree. It's kind of disappointed so far. It's had a number of problems. Did put out some buds, but most of them fell off. I've got a full lemon tree over here. I've been growing this for about 3 years. It's gotten to be pretty big, but now it's got a parasite. I'm going to have to wash the leaves off. Unfortunately, as you can see here, it's losing a lot of its leaves. We ran into this before, and I had to actually take a dishwashing detergent and scrub every leaf. It gets this strange little parasite. It's kind of a mite, and it makes it lose its leaves, and then all of its new growth kind of died off. Haven't gotten any buds or anything. So the orange tree looks like it's not losing its leaves, but it's really not thriving. And that's the problem with growing citrus in this area. You have to protect them to some extent. They don't do so well in the full sun, and yet as citrus, they're used to the heat. They don't do well with freezes over the winter, so they have to be taken in. Not really an ideal place to grow those, unfortunately. Here, back with the flowers, we've got a nice snapdragon coming up from last year, doing very well. Otherwise, a lot of this garden is just early spring. It's all pretty well finished up. Tulips and daffodils, and a few hydrangeas. But over here, we've got our other batch of snapdragons that have come back from when they were planted a couple years ago, and they're doing very, very well. And back around this side's really nothing else. We had, if you've been watching these videos for a few weeks, it wasn't long ago, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, we had our viburnum bushes here fully in bloom. All that's left now are the seed pods, but these had giant white blooms that looked like big snowballs, and they always come and go so quickly, or it seems quickly, because they're just so beautiful. You want them to last all year, but they don't. Now on this one, for whatever reason, we still have just a few lingering petals, but this will be the last video that has any of these this spring. And then back through this area, we had on top of those a bunch of azaleas. They're all done, mostly pink, light and dark pink. And then we had a couple different types of irises. These Siberian irises here, the yellow. These peaked about a week ago. They're kind of finishing off. They come and go very quickly as well. And then we had a white variety over here. These are getting close to finishing up. And then we had the blue variety over here, also getting close to finishing up. None of them look all that good because we had rain here pretty recently. Got some more Siberian irises back in here. This is never a great time to do a garden video right after a rain, because a lot of things are not looking so good. They kind of wilt a bit in the rain, but they'll come back. Even by tomorrow, if it's dry today, they'll probably look a lot better. This is our butterfly bush. Not really doing anything other than leafing out. It'll probably give us flowers in another month or so. It's kind of a midsummer plant. And then our big knockout roses through here, 5 of them. They peaked a couple of weeks ago, still covered with flowers, but not to the extent that they were just a couple of weeks ago. And those videos are on YouTube if you want to look back at how they were when they were peaking. Again, on this side, we've got the Siberian irises and a couple of regular bearded iris back in there. But all of these are going to be finished up pretty soon. Not going to be a whole lot left of them. So I have to say, from the standpoint of our yard, and I would say this for when we were up in Ohio as well, spring is absolutely my favorite time. Late March through early May is so beautiful, but everything comes and goes so quickly that you really have to get out there and enjoy them while they're there, because you blink and we've moved on to summer. It was even more so in Ohio. It seemed like the spring flowers that we had when we lived up in the area around Cleveland and Akron, everything came and went very, very quickly. Now here we have, I always call this a rock candy flower. I really don't remember the name of it. We have a number of things that we don't remember that we've gotten over the years, and they just keep coming back. Nice perennials. This is another one. Don't really remember the name of it, but and a kind of a pink variety of the same thing here. But they're low maintenance and they just keep coming back, so we just enjoy them. I've got some vinca here that we've put in, and those are not thriving quite yet. As it gets warmer, they'll get bigger and bigger, and give us flowers really through the end of the year. If the last couple of years are any example of that. We've got our bearded iris here. These were a little bit delayed for some reason. They came out later than the others, which is nice because they're still blooming now after most of the others are gone. Then we've got our big climbing pink rose here, just giving us huge blooms. This has gotten a little bit bigger, a little more extensive every year, and this year definitely giving us the most flowers that we've ever had. Over here we've got one of our Asiatic or Oriental lilies getting ready to bloom before too long. This is a smaller one. Most of the ones we have are taller. You can kind of see in the back, and we're going to go around to that side in a second. Those will bloom later in the year, but those frequently will get several feet in height. This is a very low one, but one thing that's very, very important with these, you have to spray them. Keep those deer and rabbits away, or they will chew these things down to the ground. They love the buds. Apparently they're very tasty, so got to keep our little mammal friends away. Behind all of this, we have our big knockouts, the light pink, the dark pink, and I always call it coral color. It's probably more of a salmon color when it comes right down to it. But these also have peaked, at least in the initial spring cycle. They'll continue to give us more flowers through the year, but they've already peaked. And then on this side, we've got more of these Asiatic and Oriental lilies getting bigger and bigger. They'll start to bloom probably in another, I'm going to say 3 or 4 weeks. They're not big on buds yet, but they'll be here before we know it. Also, these plants here broke ground just a few weeks ago, and they're just getting taller and taller. These will eventually get to be about 3 feet tall. These are Monarda, and they give us nice red flowers, also known as bee balm. They're kind of an early summer flower. They'll bloom mostly in June and July. And then otherwise, we have some dianthus down here. We have a number of these scattered about in this bed. Not quite as many as last year. They didn't come back with a vengeance, but they're still giving us some ground level color, which is nice. And that is basically it for our front yard. I missed these dianthus here. I also missed these daylilies. They're worth mentioning. They'll give us some beautiful flowers in another month or two. Most of them are bright orange, very ruffled, very pretty. And they've gotten bigger and bigger each year, which is kind of neat. Also forgot one last little thing. If I can find it here, it's not doing a whole lot. Right here, this is our little begonia. We put a number of begonias in about 5 years ago, and all of them were coming up every year until two winters ago. We got down to about 6 degrees, which is very unusual in this area, and that seemed to just kill off the ones that we had left. And this is the only one that has survived, so it continues to, I won't say thrive, but it will give us some flowers later on in the year. That's about it for today. We're going to do our backyard garden next. So wherever you are, I hope it's sunny. Actually, just since we started the video, a lot of blue sky has come out. So looks like it'll be a really nice day here. Hope it's sunny wherever you are. And until next time, happy gardening.